Welcome, my beautiful IU. Today we have an amazing topic and a wonderful guest. We're talking about the role of spirit in our healing journey and why it's important, along with some personal stories and how it really made the difference for us from a lot of suffering and a lot of struggle to actually finding a path that led to healing. And Matt Jones is joining me,
Hey,
shamanic practitioner trained in the Four Winds Society like I was. We met in Peru. And Matt, say hello.
yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. So, to start off with, I thought it would be good to for us each to kind of introduce ourselves and our story as a way to get into the discussion. And Matt, since you're my guest, I'd love you to start and really focus on, um, you know, I'd like you to work in kind of who you are and what you do as a practice with people, but also how you arrived here. Because
Yes,
I think one thing we share is that we were on a journey to heal ourselves. And at some point, we realized our wounds were our power. And then
yeah,
we can use them to connect with other people and help them. So
yeah.
I'd love to hear that story from you.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so it's been a year since I trained with the Four Winds. So a year since, and yeah, exactly a year since I quit my job after 17 years, and then traveled to South America to train with the Four Winds. And yeah, it was quite a journey getting there. In 2019, I hit a low. So this is even before COVID and the effects of COVID. I hit a low that I never thought that I'd get to. I never thought I was always the positive one, always seeing uh, the just let someone in. I was always the positive one, seeing the light in even when things were going wrong. But there were a series of things that happened, and it got to the point where I was there in the universe. I was going, "What else have you got? Go on then." And it would always reply, and I was like, "Go on then, anything else?" And it was like, "Yep." And so it was a series of things, and I just hit breaking point, and yeah, um I went to take my own life, and I couldn't see the reason of being here anymore. And while I was there and I went to do it, I was just imagining my flatmate coming home and finding me, and I didn't want that. And then I thought about my family and them finding out, and I didn't want that, and my friends, and I didn't want that. And yeah, so I didn't do it, but from that moment, I felt I was just living for other people, and I felt like I died inside, and that I was just going to go through the motions. And then it was about 3 days later after that that I found out that my friend that I'd fallen out with a few years before that, because he'd taken some money and we fell out over money, and he'd taken his life, and so he died. And so yeah, it was sort of the shock and the ripple of that after everything. And then seeing how that rippled through, and the way that it shattered a lot of people's lives and affected them. Um, and yeah, after that, it got to the point where I couldn't, I wasn't eating. My friend was force feeding me. This is during COVID, um, and yeah, I couldn't see a way out, and I didn't want to see a way out, and it was clear that my body had given up. And yeah, I've slowly but surely, I just I started seeing little glimpses of positivity and working through things, and I started really looking inwards, and I looked at things from the past that I'd ignored, that I was carrying along with me for this ride, and I didn't realize how much it was weighing me down. I thought if I just don't think about it, and then it's fine. But yeah, it all caught up with me, and that's what had put me in that situation, I realized. um I realized that I would put one version of me to like my family, one version to my work, one version to someone else. Like there were all these different versions, and it was exhausting trying to keep up with them all. So I was like, why don't I take all of these away, and why don't I connect with me and find out who I really am? And so yeah, it was a process, and then within that time, I also found out that I've I was undiagnosed ADHD, so there were a lot of struggles in my life that I was like, I just can't keep on top of things. But there were reasons and reasons that I could have compassion for myself, and so yeah, and then being diagnosed with ADHD, I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to meditate. I'm never going to be able to still this mind. But yeah, just I was, I guess, quite stubborn with it, and I was like, I'm just going to keep trying and trying. And then I found mantras, and then I was like, wow, this is peace. I've never experienced this. And so yeah, it went from there, and then I started finding that I had guidance, I had spirit guides, and the more I started trusting in the guidance, even if it didn't make sense, the more life just opened up, like just magic everywhere. Um, yeah, to the point where I had the call with the four winds, and I was like, um, oh, it's such a big change, leaving my career behind and walking into this new thing that I don't know too much about. Like I've experienced amazing things, but I don't know enough about it to make this leap. And I asked the universe for a sign, and this is just after I got off the call. I was like, oh, this is a good song that's playing on YouTube. I checked the name of the song so that I could get it again, and it was Four Winds in Spanish. And I was like, whoa, okay. So yeah, I'm supposed to be going on this journey. And then things just fell into place after that. And so now, yeah, a shamanic practitioner in Brighton in the UK, and it's been so amazing to bring everything that I've learned on that journey since 2019 and the shamanic practices, and help people through dark times and trauma and stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, it. There's someone who uh, I saw recently. She's had her second session and suffered with depression. She said, "I didn't even think this would be possible. Never mind in two sessions." So yeah, it's amazing stuff, and yeah, it's so rewarding doing this work.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing that really vulnerable story. I met Matt in Peru right after he got done with training,
Yeah.
and I could feel that in his energy, and his eyes were, as big as pie saucers. So yeah, we met at a really auspicious time for both of us. I was there to celebrate my graduation from the Four Winds, and he had just graduated, and also there for that reason. And I think one thing we share um, is, that disempowered feeling of hopelessness.
Mhm.
And for me, it happened in 2013, where at that point, I had been in debilitating chronic pain for almost 3 years, and gone through the Western medicine rodeo of them giving me opioids and sending me to pain clinics and basically saying, good luck. And I got to the point where, if this is my life, what's the point? If I'm going to wake up in pain and go to bed in pain, and the only way to not be in pain is to take enough medication that I can't even think, that my personality, my sense of self goes away. And I didn't see those as very good options, like a lot of people that are in that situation. So like Matt, I had to choose to check in or check out. And it was a close thing for a little while, but I chose to check in. Obviously, I'm here talking to you. And it took me a few more years to really get the message. And one of the things I hope we'll talk about today is that message that Spirit consistently tries to give you to get you to wake up. And until you do, you keep getting increasingly difficult messages, because essentially you're telling the universe, I'm not listening. So it does more and more creative and elaborate things to get your attention. So for me, it was 2 years later, I had a sudden onset ulcer from the pain medication I was being prescribed. Ate a hole in my stomach. And I went from feeling okay to having a stomach ache to passing out and almost bleeding out on the floor in a period of about 45 minutes. And I lost 6 pints of blood that day. And fortunately got to the hospital quickly where they could transfuse me, but that was it. That was the last message. I realized that if I didn't wake up later, in retrospect, right, I processed this. I realized that if I didn't wake up, the next message would be, okay, you're done. You're done with this life. Next, right? So at that point, I put absolutely everything in my life on the table to be examined and scrutinized. Is it something that serves me or not? How I lived, how I ate, my relationships, my sense of identity, my job, everything. And it's taken me since then until now, 10 years, to get to the point where I feel like I'm on the right path in terms of my healing journey, mind, body, spirit, right? And my particular medicine, I focus on what I feel is kind of an easier on-ramp for more people, which is the body part. So what I did in learning how to live a regenerative lifestyle based on indigenous practices is to allow your body to do what it was designed to do, which is heal from almost anything. And if you put it in the right state, it will do that. It can be miraculous. So for me, what happened was I ended 12 years of chronic pain. I lost 130 pounds to date, and I completely reversed a lot of the other health conditions that I was suffering with, like being pre-diabetic and having cholesterol out of control. A lot of those things are completely healed and normal now. So it was by getting the spiritual message that I was able to heal my body and to understand that everything is one thing. That was the big aha moment for me. And then, like you, when I went through lots of different iterations of practice, spiritual practice, trying to learn different things, meditation. I was very blocked about meditation for a long time. I couldn't do it. And I started doing it just like for 2 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, and trying to be, everything is one thing, Stuart. It's all related. In other words, we're taught to compartmentalize our healing, especially by the West, right? It's if you're overweight, then you need to lose weight. They never examine what's the underlying reason. And what we're going to talk about today, kind of the theme is this physical world that we live in, and certainly our physical bodies are an emanation, a manifestation of spirit. Everything starts as energy. And so if there's an imbalance in the energy, it will manifest in your body. That's your ticket, your message that you can follow. And so what we talk about is turning into the pain and asking for the message. When everything around us is telling us to turn away from the pain and find a way to numb the pain. But if we don't ask for the message, we'll keep getting it over and over again until we get it, until we find it. So that's kind of very briefly my story. I want to get into, I know something that's near and dear to you, Matt, and we can talk about spiritual practices and things as well, but I'm really interested in your journey with spirit guides, power animals, archetypes, because that seemed like something that you took on that was very transformative for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was, um, yeah, I'd say because I've got no earth in my birth chart, so I've always perhaps not felt that connection to the earth, but definitely even and when I was going through a rough time, I just didn't want to go outside, um, and yeah, just connection to anything, and I was disconnected from myself as well, and I yeah, I definitely didn't believe in spirit guides or guidance. And I'd be one of those people who I guess if there was a decision that needs to be made, I'd research everything, look to other people's advice, try and get all the information before making the decision. And yeah, since finding spirit guides and finding my inner guidance as well, my inner compass. Life's so much easier, and sometimes the path might not make sense logically, but if it feels right, follow it. Um, and yeah, I've just witnessed some really amazing stuff, and just yeah, messages, and it's helped in my practice as well. I can get messages through and be able to provide information to my clients. Um, but yeah, I remember the first experience of it, and me and my friend were sharing a flat, sharing an apartment, and there was a problem with the water boiler, and our landlord was like, okay, I'll try and get it fixed at some point. But if you left it on for too long, it was like a fire. It was a fire hazard. It looked like it felt and looked like it was about to blow up. So I wasn't safe. And my friend, we were going getting the train to go away for the weekend. And he was like, I've definitely left on the water boiler. I've left it on, it's still heating. And I was like, well, I'm wearing trainers, so I'll be able to run back and turn it off. And hopefully I won't miss the train. I was just about to run, and there was something that just stopped me, and like I could feel being held back slightly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like just this calmness and peace. And it was like things are fine and that I don't need to go back. And I was like, how am I going to explain this to my friend? And I was like, I'm just going to trust it. And it's yeah, quite a jump to trust because there was no reason to think that it had been turned off because he's telling me that he'd left it on. And so, but there was just this indescribable feeling and this knowing. And so I said to him, no, honestly, I think it'll be fine. He was like, what do you mean if you think it'll be fine? I was like, yeah, I just think it'll be fine. It's going to be fine. And he was like, "Well, it's your fault if we've got no flat when we get back." But 3 days later, we got back and it was turned off. And yeah, so that was my first experience. And from then, it was just right. Okay, I'm gonna be open myself up more to trusting and
Yeah,
seeing what comes through, feeling feelings, seeing what other signs there are, and what other guidance I receive. And yeah, I didn't always follow it, and I'd be
yeah.
proven wrong. But it was the start of a journey and trusting it and receiving that guidance.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think the key there is the trust, right? And
Mhm.
it doesn't come easy, especially if it's something that not is non-logical or non-rational, because we're taught just the opposite all our lives, that our brain and our ego are what should be in the forefront, guiding our lives. And yet, even though that's the case, we have this paradoxical attitude. Well, I'm really unhappy and I'm really unhealthy, and I've been letting the rational and the ego guide my life, and this is where it's brought me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So something else has to come in, has to change. And for me, um, I started listening to journey recordings, shamanic journey drumming. I don't know why. I just felt
yeah.
called to listen to that. And the altered state of consciousness, that even if it was a slight shift that brought to me, started opening me up to listening to mostly animal guides at first,
Mhm,
because that was the exercise in the journey, is to go to the lower world and meet some power animals. And the first one that introduced herself was Grandmother Wolf, and she said she'd been with me since I was born. And she was this magnificent, huge white wolf with the moonlight reflecting off of her fur, and just so calm and peaceful and loving and nurturing, and all the female aspects, the divine feminine. And that's what kind of put me on the path to learning how out of balance my divine feminine was. That I
mhm,
was all the way over on the masculine, past the divine masculine into the toxic masculine, because I was trying to find a way to fix myself, right? Through a mindset of intervention. Like, what do I need to intervene in to stop X? And through that initial connection with her, and then also I met Hawk Mother, who was a Kiowa medicine woman. And for all the reading I've done over the years about indigenous cultures, I knew nothing about the Kiowa until I
mhm.
met her, and it took me a while to even get that word through the revelation.
Yeah.
And so then I dug into it, and wanted to learn more about the Kiowa. But she introduced herself as Hawk Mother,
Ah,
that she was a Kiowa medicine woman, that she was in my spiritual lineage, direct spiritual lineage, right? And that it was time for us to talk.
yeah.
And I got the feeling that she had been waiting for me to talk to her for a very long time. And I was finally getting to the point where I could receive information from her. So these were, like in your case, these were stepping stones, very pivotal stepping stones, to get me to start listening to the non-rational world. And people that haven't had these experiences, they immediately think, "Oh, you're telling a story," right?
Mhm, mhm.
And we are, to an extent, but your body reacts to these stories in a way that, what I've come to learn, is kind of my truth detector. I
Mhm.
feel I feel almost like a burning sensation in my heart when these things happen, that anchors it into this 3D reality. So it goes from the non-rational into the 3D rational world for me. But it didn't do that right away. So, like you said, it was a lot of it was about trust.
Yeah.
Is the information that I'm getting kind of in my best and highest good? And what could it lead to? What do I have to lose? I mean, we've both been in that situation where it's like, it can't really get any worse.
Mhm.
So what do I have to lose by listening?
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, wolf as well. Yeah, my first shamanic journey, power animal, I had a wolf as well. Um,
Wow.
and yesterday it came up. Yeah, I was at a holistic healing fair, and someone came up and they said, I don't know, yeah, she was talking about spirit guides, and Paula was talking about me meeting my spirit guides, and she said that, guess what mine is, and she, like we guessed a couple, and then she was like no, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. I just said wolf, and she said yeah, it was as well. Yeah, it was a good one.
So let's talk a little bit about how to connect to spirit guides, because those who are listening, not everybody might be super familiar with shamanic traditions. This seems to be one of those things that Michael Harner called core shamanism, because
Mhm.
it doesn't seem to matter which indigenous belief system that you ascribe to. They all have these journeys with spirit and these connections with not only the archetypes, but specific personal, either ancestors or spirit beings that have chosen to work with us for whatever
Mhm.
reason. Opinions vary, but that seems to be a consistent thing. So, what has been your experience in not only for yourself, but perhaps guiding your clients into the
Mhm.
process where they can connect with these beings?
Yeah, yeah. So for it's definitely with having that trust,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, shamanic journeys is such a powerful way of getting so many messages through, and again, just trusting what you're receiving, trusting anything that comes through, whether it's a feeling, um, and yeah, when I've talked about my spirit guides and some amazing things that have happened or they've guided me to, or my clients have been like, "Do you think I've got spirit guides?" And it's like, "Yeah, yeah, you definitely do," and they're waiting for you to talk to them. And so, what I recommend everyone to do is to start opening up that communication and yeah, it's the trust and the opening that communication is so big and important. And yeah, I remember I had times when I was asking, okay, if you're there, can you show me? And I chose a random animal, a dove. Show me show me a dove. And I was in the shower and I was like, yeah, but that's on the shampoo bottle. Does that really count? And so then went out and I was walking down the street and someone on their number for their house had two doves on there, and so I was like, okay, yeah, okay, I hear you. And I see you. So yeah, it's opening up that communication, noticing if there's any questions that you want to ask, you can voice them or put that intention out there,
Yeah,
and see what messages come back through everything around you.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
and
That's
yeah.
very cool. I've experienced similar things. I wanted to kind of go back to something you reminded me of early in my journey, though, that when I was so unhealthy and in so much pain, and I started this awakening process by doing the journeying, I started asking very practical questions like, what can I do to heal myself? How can I
Mhm.
stop being in pain?
Yeah, yeah,
How should I change my diet? That kind of thing. And one of the first things that I was led to was establishing a dialogue with my body.
hmm
You
yeah,
know, we have this tricky relationship with our bodies because we take it on as our identity because this is who we are, right? This
hmm
material, like Yoda says, this crude flesh, right? This is part of who we are. It is and it isn't, is what I found, right? And the Dalai Lama has this great thing where he says you should treat your body like a favored pet. Really think about that, right? Because how do we treat a favored pet? We treat them like our child. We love them. We take care of them. We do everything for them, right? Can we then reflect that feeling to our body? Most people would say no, right? Because we have this negative talk track going on in our mind about all of our perceived inadequacies, all of our perceived failings, the things that we don't like about ourselves usually come to the front. And what I found after years of practice of this body dialogue method is that your body is very literal and it does everything you tell it to, or it tries to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're constantly in a dialogue loop where you're telling your body, you suck,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hate you, it's going to go, oh, okay, I suck, you hate me. So I'm going to manifest that as disease and
Mm-hmm.
imbalance and pain and all these things, right? It sounds simple, and it is, but it's very powerful. If you start actually being able to look in the mirror, for example, and tell yourself, I love you. Thank you for being my companion on this journey. Thank you for giving me all the things that you give me on a daily basis. And you start this practice of gratitude. You reset that connection and you start having a real authentic dialogue with your body, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that led me to was a capability that anybody can develop that I think is a superpower. And that's asking your body if you should eat or drink something
Mm-hmm.
and then listening to the answer. And it's
Yeah.
always right. We get all caught up in these notions about, should I eat keto? Should I eat paleo? Should I blah, 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 right? All the noise out here in the world. You're very specific. Your physical makeup, your spiritual makeup, everything about you is very specific to who you are. And if you ask your body and the wisdom that it's connected to in mind and in spirit, it will always give you the right answer if you have that clear channel established, right? So I started doing that. And it eventually led me to a catalyzing event that stopped my pain. And I started rebalancing my body. It wasn't about losing weight. That was a side effect. It was about embodying harmony and realizing how out of harmony I was
Mm-hmm.
through this dialogue. And that was spirit led.
Mm-hmm.
One of the journeys I went on, I started asking those questions. How should I heal? How should I heal? And the answer I got back was, you already know the answer. Ask your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Never would have occurred to me to do that in a
Yeah.
million years, right?
Yeah.
So this is key for the people that are listening. The message that you get is going to be very personal to you. Nobody like us can intervene and tell you, this is what you should do, right? We're guides. We're what we call hollow bones. We can hold space to make it easier, or that's not even the right word, enable you to connect to source and do your work. But we're just there to hold space and be guides. The message that you get is for you, right? So I can't emphasize enough that when you start this process of trusting and being open to the information that comes through, it's going to be your journey, and it's going to be a journey of self-empowerment. And I'm saying it that way because a lot of people, because they have this, what I called an intervention mindset or a fix it mindset, they go into this thinking, if I can just learn this one technique, or if I can find a guru to show me the way, I'm going to heal. It's finally going to work. Well, guess what? You've probably been doing that most of your life, and it hasn't worked because you're not going inward and listening. That's where the messages come from, right? What do you think about that, Matt?
Yeah, 100%. Muscle testing, that is amazing. And, we can use it for diagnosing blockages in people's energy body, but then you can also use it yourself to see if something's in harmony. And so just locking fingers together and
Hmm.
asking a yes or no question. If it's out of harmony, then it's not going to be strong. It's going to pull apart. Um, and so, yeah, that was my first taster of listening to my body and getting direct, clear messages back. Um, and again, it's trusting it. And now, yeah, it's a case of just taking a moment and seeing different areas, how they feel, and what's, yeah, what's anything telling me? Is there any tension when something's coming? But yeah, definitely muscle testing. We've been through a whole detox.
Yeah.
Um,
Excuse me, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you have him demonstrate that for us, the muscle testing?
I,
So
Yeah.
do
I was
something and
gonna.
then give an example of how you do it, because I'd love to start doing that. And I'm a
yeah,
doctor, and you're going to be schooling me right now. So I'd really appreciate your doing that.
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Stand up. So yeah, making two rings with your fingers, and you can ask something that you know is going to be a no. So if I was going to say, my name is Mark, then I can feel that that breaks. It won't stay together when I try to lock it and hold it and put that tension there. And then if I say, my name is Matt, it stays strong.
Hmm.
And so it's a quick and easy way. There's different ways that you can do it by pushing down and stuff like that, but that's the easiest one that I found. If you're out and about, you can stay, it stays like that. And you can use it for seeing whether foods are good for you.
Hmm.
Same as you were saying about yeah, checking in with your body. Does it agree with that? Because uh, uh, yeah, Paula found that she had SIBO, it's called, and so we've been on a journey. It's like garlic, onions, all of these things that you think are okay to eat. That suddenly, oh,
2024,
that's why.
2024.
What's that say? Miss that. So yeah, all of these things, and through muscle testing or listening to our body has helped guide us on what we're able to eat.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot. I can't believe it. I just tried that on a couple
Yeah,
different things. Like it's 2025, it's 2024, or my name, and I was blown away. So thank you so
yeah.
much.
Oh,
That's
no worries.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's it's amazing, and yeah, it works because for it to stay strong and have that strength, you need to be it needs to be in alignment, both your masculine, feminine imbalance. It needs to be in alignment with you. If it's not, then it's going to break. You're not going to have that strength,
Right.
and it's an amazing tool to have.
Well, thank you
Andrew,
so much.
you have a question? You can unmute yourself.
Hi. Just in the muscle testing, you can also do it standing up. And if it's a yes, your body will move forward. And if it's a
Yeah,
no, it'll move back. So that's
yeah,
also another technique that you can use.
yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, I'm doing a 12-week program right now, leading one, and this is something that I just introduced last week. So this is a really great way to test things like supplements. Do I need to take this supplement? Not just with food, but it also, like Matt and Dondi demonstrated, it can be non-material items. You know, should I go to this party? Should I get on this flight? You know, if there's a question in your mind, you can do it and you connect to the ancient wisdom for the answer. But like Matt said, If you're just doing it and you're not doing anything else, it does require a relatively clear channel. So if your channel's not clear, you might not get the information that you want. But if you make it part of your practice, it can be really useful. Jim, Brother Grey Wolf, what do you got?
Yep. I was looking for the button. Yeah, and the last part you just said there, Mark, is so critical. Muscle testing is amazing, and you can get all kinds of information. However, you have to be an open channel, or you're not going to get anything except crazy feedback. And that goes with this whole thread in my mind. And I've been doing this a long time. This is not something you can go into the logical mind and come up with a game plan and list it out. And Matt alluded to it several times. You have to be in your heart for this. Yes, you can put intentions out. You can put questions out. You can ask your guides, creator, the earth. Nature is critical in this. But then it's a matter of backing off and staying open. As soon as we try to think it through or come up with, okay, logically, this is what's going to come next, nothing happens.
Right.
Even with teachers. If you go out there looking for teachers, and I know I looked for years for my teachers, and I finally gave up, and that's when they showed up.
Right.
It's absolutely, it's not typical Western European thought. It's absolutely more, it has to be on a spiritual road or you don't go anywhere. What do you think? Mark?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that occurred to me while you were speaking that truth is about permission and asking. Right? There's a I don't know what you want to call it, but it's kind of how the universe is constructed, I think. That nothing happens without permission.
Yep.
Or in violation of your free will. So if you choose to go down a dark hole and you choose to be unhealthy, that's your divine right.
Yep.
But you can use that same power, exactly the same power, to heal yourself by asking for guidance, asking for the spirit to move through you in some way, whatever way that makes sense to you. But it won't happen. It absolutely will not happen unless you ask. And I had a few experiences. And I'll get to Steve. Just this quick story of early on when I was on this awakening path, and I started being introduced to my spirit guides and animal archetypes and things. And a couple of times, I definitely got a feeling from them that they've been sitting there like this for a long time, waiting for me. It's like, finally, you're here. Okay, let's go. That kind of feeling. So they can't do anything without your permission. Steve, please weigh in.
Okay, good stuff. I learned from a different shaman, Freddie Quispe Singona, who's Quero as well, the rainbow lineage. But beyond all that, because our stories are pretty similar, I think everyone had some sort of an awakening of some sort. Mine was a little different, what opened that door up. But specific to what we're talking about the open channel, my belief is that even if we get something that we would deem or want to construe as negative, it isn't negative. It's just a different frequency. There's Masintin, Yanantin, it's that dance, we can fight with something, or we can dance with something. There's overloads of information. I read a book twice because I need to do things twice because I do have ADD that's been misdiagnosed, and college was rough for me because I kept reading the same chapter over and over again. But there's a book called 365 Days of the Red Road. It's something like that. And it's just each day is highlighted, whether a US president did something or Sitting Bull said something, whatever, prophecies, all kinds of things. I can't remember, but it was a chief of some tribe, and it was on a certain day in this year, given year, 1765, for example. But everything is supposed to happen the way it happens, like it or not. It's if this rain, it starts raining and the first drop lands here, it was supposed to land here, not there. That drop lands there. So when we're, like you were saying, being the openness,
Mhm.
it's to me, it's acceptance and gratitude and trust and patience
Mm.
because they don't come when we want it. The universe is, or whatever we believe in, but it's way bigger than we know.
Yeah.
So we're just out there hoping and asking for the greatest good with harm to none, I hope. But it's still, we're not in charge.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you, Steve. And what occurs to me to talk about next is, and I definitely want you to weigh in, Matt, is something that's very current to me. And I think another thing that we share is we're trying to kind of transition from, one source of income to being able to do this full time and having a completely, our whole life has been another focus, completely rational mind focus.
Yeah.
And I'd spent the last year trying to make keyword, right? Make the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And what in the last few months, I've really started to realize what a fool's errand that is to try to make something happen, right? Make it happen, build a practice, all these male words, right?
Yeah.
When what we're doing in this world, this shamanic world, is all divine feminine connection to earth, allow, surrender, trust, all those types of, concepts. And so lately I've been really practicing finding the flow, like you're in a river and you're trying to find the current that is your best and highest and just move into that current. So the doing or the moving or the making part of it is small. It's finding the current, right? Then from there, it's all allow. Trust. You're in the current, you're in the flow now. And whatever happens, like Steve was saying, is supposed to happen. You may perceive it with your rational mind as good or bad, but it's all information and it's all learning. And since I started doing that, it would take me another hour to tell you all the synchronicities I've been experiencing in the last few months. It's insane. Rationally, it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
People reaching out, people offering medicine, offering opportunities, connections that I don't feel like I had much to do with initiating, right? Just coming in. And that applies to health as well. It's the information that you need to heal will come from community. It will come from being in flow. It will come from within. It will come from all the places that we have access to, right? But only if we allow ourselves to have access to it. What are your thoughts on the flow, Matt?
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you're just going with the flow, and like you said, the synchronicities. Um, yeah, I had when I went out to um, South America, but Vision Quest had kept coming up, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm interested. That feels right. That feels like something I want to do, and I sort of was Googling and trying to find somewhere. I was like, no, it looks like I'd have to go to somewhere, another country, and then yeah, I'd have to book it in as a separate trip. It's not going to be something that I can do right now. And yeah, after I left you in Peru, suddenly bumped into a guy who lives in Brighton. So he lives here and he holds ceremonies. And so, yeah, small world, bumping into someone from Brighton. He recommended a shaman in Peru in the Sacred Valley who holds vision quests. And the vision quest was exactly just before I was leaving. So I was like, ah, yeah, perfect. I'll do the vision quest. And uh, I'd also booked in to get the tattoo, just and the guy wasn't getting back to me. It looked like it wasn't going to happen. But everything that I was feeling and everything was saying that it's going to happen. So I was just trusting and going with it. So, and it went ahead just in time before I left. And then came home and I went to, it's like a conscious festival, and I'd run out of time to buy some chumpy stones in when I was in Peru. And I was looking online. I was like, it doesn't feel right buying them online. But I missed my chance buying them in Peru. But it feels like everything happened as it was supposed to happen. And then there was a tent there, and it had loads of stuff from Peru, and it had those stones. And so I started speaking to the guy, and he was like, "Oh, nice tattoo. Where did you get it?" And I go, "Oh, it was actually in Cusco." And he was like, "Oh, you remember the guy's name?" And I was like, "Is it Rafa?" He was like, "Rafa, yeah, he did my tattoo." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And I said, "Oh, he said, are you going to this festival next weekend?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'm going to a ceremony." It's funny because I met this guy, I bumped into him in Peru, and he lives in Brighton. He was like, "Josh." I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Oh, I was supposed to be going to that ceremony, but I bumped into him in Peru." And so it's just like, wow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
clear across the world,
Yeah.
you're bumping into these people, and it's it's a small group. I mean, the Four Winds has really done an amazing job of opening up the knowledge and the lineage to the world. I think they've trained something like 20,000 people, but not all those people are, of course, practitioners. Everybody goes into it for their own purposes. Some just want to learn. But yeah, it's amazing the synchronicities that happen.
Yeah.
One of the spiritualists that I watch, and not all the time, but occasionally, Bashar. It's a channeled being by Daryl Anka.
Yeah.
And something that I heard about a month ago really stuck with me. He said, "You have one job as a human being, only one, and that's to follow your passion. And when you do that, the synchronicities will guide you." So that really flies in the face of all the planning and considering and rationalizing and all the things that we do as humans, right? We got to make a plan. We got to have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, and earn money so that we can be safe and accumulate things. Maybe not. Maybe there's another way to do this. Just follow your passion and let the information that you need in the moment come to you, and just be open to it. So
I was going to put my hand up, but I don't know how to
Yes.
do the hand on the thing.
I see your hand, sister. Speak it. Speak it.
So I just thought the synchronicity point was well taken. Mark and I synchronistically, connected on one of the big boards. And then I was in Playa last year. So Mark's in Playa this year. His geo friend is in Playa this year. It's just all those synchronistic things, seem to happen more and more. And it helps remind me that I'm not running the show. And it's a good feeling when those things just, are appearing. What did I want to say? Oh, about the money thing, about doing this. I've been, pretty much supporting myself exclusively as a healing facilitator and spiritual guide since 2018, pretty much full time. My transition was not deliberate. The other world, I went through a dark night of the soul where my grandma died, my dad died, my house burned. I was laid off from a job that I really liked. I was illegally fired from a job. My daughter was suicidally depressed. I changed states for living. Yeah, it was pretty much a full washout. And so spirit, I had always been really intuitive, but spirit put me into this place where I don't know. I mean, my whole left brain just basically went to sleep because nothing my left brain did could do anything about most of what was going on was totally outside my control. So I was like, okay, well, I guess this, logical linear left brain navigation thing is just not happening. And I had already been praying for decades for cities. And so my intuitive gifts that had always been there really opened up as I went through that dark night. And then I started, training as I came through the other side. I did not plan to leave the other world. It was just, I was laying on the floor of my coworker's office one day, and I could feel how toxic the environment was. And I thought, you know what? I can't stay here. This is not a place to be. And at that time, I sort of like made a new contract with the universe. I was like, look, universe, I can help organizations from the outside. I can help people, but I cannot be inside toxic soup on a daily basis. It was like, must, because I could feel it in my body. And I'm like, that's not gonna cut the mustard. And so I really, did this, that, and a third to make a living. I worked for Nielsen TV ratings off and on for 4.5 years, which, I'd had like the deluxe, beautiful office in my college job with a beautiful view and all these perks. And then now I'm making like $9.25 an hour as I was learning my new stuff and, under the scrutiny, constantly being listened to, clicking out on a time clock. Oh my gosh. But during that time, I actually was able to focus all my attention on the new learning and, sort of cleaning out the old and laying a more open space for the new foundation. So yeah, my life has been serendipitously guided pretty much. I learned how to live in the I don't know and be okay with that. And then what I realized today, this is so interesting because I was talking with one of my long-term mentees yesterday about knowing. And when she had her near-death experience, she was informed that she would know what she needed to know when she needed to know it. And many years ago, I had a teacher mentor tell me, there was an affirmation like that. I know what to know, and I know what I need to know when I need to know it. And I act accordingly, and I act on what I know. So I realized, sometimes when you look back, you see, how certain things were laid in so far back, but you weren't conscious of it at that moment in time. Now you can see as things are fruiting, how it got there. Oh yeah, that seed was planted by ABC 123 person way, way back. Or yeah, I realized it took me a long time because for a while I was really obsessed with that whole, oh my God, I went through this dark night of the soul and then my intuitive gifts open. And then I realized, the Vajrayana prayers that I've been saying for decades were asking for my cities to be opened, so
Right.
it was like you were asking for that. And it was like, oh, I just didn't realize that's what I was asking for exactly like that. But I was asking for the result. I'm like, oh, okay. So what I was really enjoying about listening to the conversation here is especially what you shared, Matt, about you have no planets in Earth, that the Earth energies, you really needed those Earth energies to come into balance. And that's a great thing for me to be aware of when I work with people, because, I tend to be up there, quite a bit and out in space quite a bit. I have 4 planets in Virgo, so I've got that, good Earth connection. But still, when I'm doing the healing or intuitive activities, sometimes I'm way out there. And bringing that Earth energy in more for some people, I could see how that would really, bring the balance. You couldn't get down here in Earth and know what to do in Earth without that Earth energy. It makes, complete sense. Yeah. And also the way you were talking, Mark, about your guides were waiting, like, okay, Mark, hello, we've been here a while. I don't have that kind of really dialed in specific like animal thing too much, but some people around me told me after I came home from Mexico that I had octopus energy around me. And I was like, okay, what's that? So then I looked it up and I liked it. And weirdly, oddly, again, synchronistically, I had chosen, I really love textiles, and I have like a crocheted bedspread. Guess what it is? An octopus. So I just feel like that magic is everywhere. I also used to think, like, people will talk about how their deceased loved ones come and show up as a butterfly or a blue jay or whatever. In the beginning, I used to think that was BS, but I actually don't think that now. I actually believe that energies from the other side can emanate themselves into living creatures here. So, so when that person recognizes it, oh, that's my whoever, it's true. I totally believe that that's true. It's like that designated symbolic, mythopoetic interface is completely valid. And then I believe that the electromagnetic frequencies that are held outside of time space can, shoot over here. So anyway, I'm enjoying the conversation. It's nice for me. My personal practice is more probably like Dawn's, mindfulness based, Buddhist based. But the underpinnings for Vajrayana Buddhism particularly are very shamanistic. So I kind of grew up in, watching someone who was doing a lot of moving of objects or, putting one picture behind somebody else's, doing things that look, very sort of, magical in nature. So I've observed that a lot. I don't have a lot of cognitive, structure for it. But
Yeah. Thank you
Jim,
for sharing that. Jim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to do it too. Maybe you can't on this particular format.
no, you did it. Your hand is up on the
No, I
thing.
think Mark must have done it.
Oh,
Somebody else did it. Maybe it was Creator. I don't know. Yeah, it's this. This is a really good discussion today. I'm glad you called this in, and Matt, it's been excellent. Yeah, shamanism is interesting because suddenly, once again, it seems like half the people I run into have decided they're shamans, and most of them don't know what the hell shamanism even is or what a shaman does or where it comes from. So, and there has been some good write-ups on that in the past by some friends of mine who are not here anymore, but they're good. Hank Wesselman, for one, has some excellent write-ups on what is shamanism and what's it mean and where did it come from. And yeah, part of it is it only comes from two places on the planet originally. It comes from India and northern India and Nepal, and it comes from the Ramani Mountains, which is my heritage. That's where my grandmother came from. So from there it spread out, and that doesn't mean there's not. I heard Kristen an excellent comment there. There's beliefs that are similar, and all our beliefs in many ways are similar. They tie together if we allow them to. But shamanism itself is a separate thing. It didn't exist in our part of the world here in the United States or South America. There was medicine people, but there were no shamans. And it can be confusing, I think, especially to new people. Okay, what's the difference between a medicine person and a shaman and a Buddhist practitioner or blah, 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 blah. And so keeping them separate, I think, is really important. One thing for me from the beginning, and it's what my teachers told me at first, and I wasn't an easy student. I can be really stubborn, especially when I was younger. Shamanism has to be nature-based. If you're not bringing in nature, you are not practicing shamanism. And it took me a while to accept that, let alone learn it. But it's really true. It's the earth working. It's earth medicine more than any other that I've found. And I've traveled around the world working with all kinds of different modalities and different practitioners. If you're not in touch with the earth and allowing her to lead, you're practicing something else. And that doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's simply something else. And I see those of you who really work in shamanism shaking your heads. I mean, we had to learn this. Nothing comes unless we're connected there too. So asking the questions and then remembering we are not in control. The earth is. Some of our institutions throughout history have fouled that up. Religion is a big one. Books like the Bible, which tell us that we are the ones that dominate the earth, are backwards. It's actually the earth. Look what's going on around us now. All these things that are occurring. That's the earth telling us, come on, don't just listen to me, do what I'm telling you to do. And it's pretty simple stuff. It's love each other. It's love the planet. I mean, it's things that were at one time, I think, embedded in us, in our DNA. So a lot of this isn't even new things we have to learn. It's going back and relearning what we've lost. And I tell myself that every morning, and every morning, Mark, you're right. I ask, because nothing comes unless we ask. And that's partly human nature. I was told as I ran nonprofits, you know why you don't get volunteers? No, why not? Because you're not asking. And it's the same principle. Put it out there to the universe, and you'll get the answers.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time, and the sticks back to you.
Thank you, Brother Grey Wolf. I appreciate that. Always,
I love
always
that. Thank you.
love your wisdom. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Like I said in chat, this has been wonderful. This is Spirit guiding us to a completely different format than I've done in the past because Facebook wouldn't cooperate. And when you do a live stream on Facebook, basically all the interaction is in chat. You can't interact this way. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be led to this format. And I think it's something that we're going to be doing again. So thank you for that. Matt, thank you for coming on and sharing your medicine.
Yeah.
And if anybody is interested in working with Matt or myself, the links are in the description for the event. And we would love to talk to you and see if there is an intersection of our paths and there's something that we can offer each other. I think we're both in this as a calling. Not necessarily to make money. It's an energy exchange. So there's no obligation if you talk to us and it doesn't seem like a fit, that's fine. There's always a reason. So we encourage you to reach out. And I want to thank everybody for your contribution and this great conversation. I'm going to post the recording to this on the event in the Shaman Circle group. So everyone will be able to see it. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next time. Aho.